You know, Brother Charles, last week you mentioned something. You mentioned last week that beans are not good for us to eat. But why do Muslims promote the navy bean?
Well, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had a teacher, and he said that he met with God in person, Master Fard Muhammad. And Master Fard Muhammad was the teacher who told him what specific beans to eat. And he said he advised no bean except for the small white navy bean. And he said that he described no other bean. So in the Holy Quran talks about eating lentils, which is a bean, but it's not our type of bean. There are some of us who are promoting vegetarianism, which is proper. But when you go down that path, you're going to run into these obstacles of of trying to avoid eating the foods which are the navy bean, I'm sorry, you are trying to avoid the foods other than the navy bean, which Allah calls forbidden foods, because there's beans that have lectins in it, and lectins are poison. Like we said last week, beans are seeds. They want to be planted, not put on a plate. So when you have these beans and you want to try to make them into a food, the beans are telling you, look, I'm going to poison you when you try to eat me. So the way to try to get out the lectins in the other beans is that we have to soak them 24 hours, and then we have to boil them for another 8 hours. That lessens the lectins that are in beans. So you're trying to deactivate a bomb. But as you see on the screen here at the bottom, it says, in addition, this scientist who did studies on this small white navy bean, he said it does not possess the detectable levels of active lectin in it. Therefore, it doesn't have the same concerns as other beans. So the Muslim followers of the Honorable Muslim Farrakhan, as before, down Elijah Muhammad, we promote the navy bean, not these other beans that could literally give you gas and blow out your stomach.
All right. So what are some things that makes the navy bean so special?
All right, this is the fun part. I do a presentation in an orientation class here in New York City. And when it comes to the navy bean, I try to make it more relatable by making it very simple, but also fun. So I perused the internet and I came across this website that was promoting foods to store up just in case there's a nuclear holocaust, all right? So on that list, number 4 was the navy bean. And it said that it had a significant amount of iron and iodine. So I like to correlate that with the story of Godzilla. I know it's weird, but just follow me. In 1945, the United States of America in World War II dropped 2 bombs on Japan, in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So that destroyed the island nation of Japan, right? It irradiated the water, the food, the air, and caused an irradiated environment for the people. So Godzilla has over 40 movies in its movie iconography, all right? And we're always wondering, why there's so many movies of Godzilla? Because Godzilla is a secret message to the Japanese people to remind them what happened to them in 1945, right? So the joke is on us because we haven't learned the message that the Japanese have learned, because right now, the Japanese have over 80,000 centenarians, right? A centenarian is a person who lives over 100 years old. Right. So if you're 100 years old now, you were 24 in 1945. So you learned how to live with irradiated water, irradiated air in the land, and the food being highly radiated. What do? They eat a lot of sweet potato, which is also high in iodine. That a black man here in America, we can't eat sweet potato. I mean, we love our sweet potato pie, but the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that that's food for hogs. Let the hog eat the sweet potato, not you. So he prescribed for us the navy bean, and the navy bean is high in iodine. Well, in closing on this, you may say, well, we haven't been in a nuclear war or a nuclear holocaust, so why should we eat the navy bean? Well, you have a phone on your hip, which is a hotspot. Every time you walk into a Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, McDonald's, you're walking into a Wi-Fi field. You're not only 5G, you're 6G. All right. So you want to keep the Navy beam in your diet, so you're fighting off these radioactive effects. The Honorable Mr. Farrakhan mentioned about 3 series days ago that the Navy beam is rich in iodine, which fights the effects of radiation. Yes, sir.
Oh, Brother Charles, we're always learning. You're always challenging us and stretching our minds, and encouraging us to do better by the information that you present. So we've always been told growing up, we were placed at the table and there was some greens on our plate, and we may have eaten the meat, or if there was something sweet we wanted to eat, or a sweet drink, some juice, or growing up where I come from, Kool-Aid, full of sugar, of course. But we were always told that in order to get that dessert or that sweet drink, you have to eat your greens first. But you mentioned to us that in How to Eat to Live, it says not so. So explain that to us.
Okay, we are accustomed to the food pyramid put out by the USDA, and always at the bottom is a whole bunch of green leaves. For the most part, they want you to eat your greens. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says on page 68 of book 2, he says this, and I'm going to read it because I don't want to get it wrong. Do not eat too many green greens. They are not good for you, especially the collard greens and cabbage sprouts. Do not eat them. Those are not my words. You could go read it for yourself. You can read along, page 68, book. All right. The reason why is because every type of food or structure of a food on the molecular level has its enemy on the inside of us. So when we talk about they are hard to digest, digest means to break into two. Die meaning two, jest means to break apart. That the green leaf is hard to break apart in the human body. Last week we talked about Popeye. Popeye will eat a can of spinach. Hold off on that. We don't want you to go that hard with green leaf vegetable. Now, what it is that's hard to digest is cellulose. Cellulose is the structural aspect of green plants. It's in all plants, but particularly green plants, which are mainly for animals. They have the ability, they have that enemy on the inside called cellulase. Cellulase is an enzyme that breaks down cellulose. Just how lactose is broken down by lactase. They have their job to do. Humans do not possess cellulase. Cows do, horses do, gorillas do. Even termites have cellulase, so they're able to eat wood, but not us. A cow has a 4-chambered stomach. A cow will chew grass 500 times, right? It'll chew it about 250 times, swallow it, break it down in its rumen, then spit it back up, chew it another 250 times, and then send it down to another chamber of the stomach. Brothers and sisters, we do not have 4-chambered stomachs. We are closer to the gorilla, but the gorilla, if you've ever seen a gorilla stand upright, it almost has, it's almost like it has like a double stomach. It has a distended abdomen. It has a longer, larger intestine. We do not have that. It allows for the green vegetables to be fermented in their stomach. We do that a little bit in it's called the gut flora. But trying to make a lifestyle out of green vegetables, you're harming yourself. Now, I've studied ancient cultures. Here we have the Pygmy brother. In the center is the Jara tribe in India, off the coast of, in the Ottoman Islands, off the coast of India. And then we have an Aborigine family. They have 50 to 60,000 years of history. They're surrounded by leaves, brothers and sisters. You can watch dozens of films on them, documentaries, read books about them. You'll never see them eat a leaf. They'll use leaves to start fires to cook the meat that they just caught. They're called hunter-gatherers. Now, why am I saying this? It's just that they, under harsh circumstances, have a more legitimate excuse to try to eat green leaves. But they won't, and they don't. They'll make a house out of green leaves. So you're thinking you're going to find a cooking channel with green leaves, and you'll find this whole house with them. They're building a structure. So it's better for us to leave the green leaf as a garnish, if you want to, put it on the side, you can do that. But the green leaf, throughout history, you cannot find the people where their staple food is a leaf.
Thank you, Brother Charles. Now, this next thing that you mentioned, next question, angered a lot of people. You mentioned no nuts. And nearly every designer diet or healthy diet that's brought before the human being on the planet, they invite you to eat nuts. And so this makes a lot of people upset when you say don't eat nuts. Why are nuts bad for you?
Well, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he said no nuts, positively no nuts, absolutely no nuts, and no nuts whatsoever, and no nuts of any kind. When he says no nuts of any kind, that includes the wide variety of nuts, because people like to contend with you about what's a nut and what's not a nut. So I had this book. I tried to ignore it for years, but I had to get this book. Nuts are not good for humans, right? I just thought it was a no-brainer. But people will challenge you. Now, nuts will damage your digestive tract, all right? Then once again, they are seeds, all right? If you've ever seen a cashew, most people have never seen a cashew apple, all right? These are seeds of fruit. We're supposed to eat the fruit, not the seeds of the fruit. So the seeds, once again, are designed to resist digestion and to be planted, not on a plate. So when it comes to telling people, let's go down the vegetarian path, this is another obstacle that you got to deal with. If you're about that life, you got to give up nuts and teach people not to eat nuts or try to drink nut milks, which are really pulverized nuts and water and enriched nutrients. So if you read page 39 of book number 1, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says this: the only thing with the stomach enough to digest nuts is an animal. Birds love nuts and they have what it takes to digest them. Nature made them that way. Then he goes on to say on page 116, they, talking about white people, eat nuts of various kinds, which the stomach is unable to digest without harming its delicate digestive tract. So I've studied a few autopsies, and the doctors said that if you've ever touched the intestines of a human, it's almost like dealing with wet newspaper, wet tissue. It's very delicate. So you want to make sure that the food that you eat, you masticate it enough, and it's hard to masticate nuts. They come down in little bits and pieces. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that the only animals with stomachs strong enough to eat nuts really are birds and other animals. Now, birds have what are called gizzards. I know we're familiar with the chicken gizzard, so I'm going to read on the chicken gizzard, and you get an idea of what a gizzard is. It says a gizzard is a muscle found in the digestive tract of a chicken. If you ever seen a chicken pecking away at the ground, they are in fact swallowing tiny bits of grit and gravel, which travel through the chicken's digestive tract and eventually lodges in the gizzard. Then when food arrives, this powerful little muscle contracts like a tiny fist squeezing a handful of gravel. The gravel grinds up the food. So, Brother Robert, if you want to eat nuts, maybe you should have, a hors d'oeuvre of gravel and grit. So when it's lodged in your stomach, the gravel and grit compound the nuts into something more digestible. That's just not what we have. We do not contain gizzards, brothers and sisters. So this is why we should leave the nuts to the animals. And we want our people to understand that even though you try to liquefy the nuts also have components similar to beans. They have lectins, they have phytates, they have tannins in them, they're goitrogens, which are all anti-nutrients. They do not want to be a part of you. They want to be in the soil.
All right, Brother Charles. So question for all of the nut freaks out here, the people that really love nuts. Is there a way to make nuts digestible?
In my opinion, according to what the Honorable has blessed us with, I would say no, because the history of the nut in the United States here in America is very short. Now, that doesn't mean that the natives here were eating nuts, but when nuts began to become popularized, it was at the turn of the the century towards the 1900s, where nuts were really feed for animals. It was hog feed. That's why something that's worth nothing is, they say, oh, it costs peanuts, because peanuts are worth nothing. They're easy to grow, and they're very helpful in certain instances, but they're really for animals. You know, you go to a circus, a fair, or a ball game, right? Now, how white people got it into the food supply is that they put it in candies and snacks, like Cracker Jacks. And we all know the song of Take Me Out to the Ball Game, buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. Yeah, you pour some sugar on top of it, which is the caramel, anything tastes good. A little bit of salt. I used to love nuts, but it originally was animal feed. So we really should back away from eating that. But our brother, our scientist, George Washington Carver, he worked on the peanut, right? He came up with, they say, 300 products from the peanut. Originally, the peanut plant was to help rebuild the soil from overplanting certain crops. So black farmers were, they helped the white farmer by saying, look, we've been growing peanuts for your animals, and we've learned that the peanut plant revitalizes the nitrogen in the soil. So instead of you trying to plant corn and wheat and cotton, try to plant these peanuts to revitalize the soil. So George Washington Carver was able to come up with many different products for the peanut. But his main work was for conservation and the proper uses of plants for people in the general life. You don't want the same types of food on your dinner table or the same type of materials that you use to build your house. They use peanut oil sometimes for paint, for lubricants for engines. Look at some of the list of items that came from the peanut. You don't want the same type of material that you use for your car to be in your food. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, his wisdom, in my opinion, goes far beyond the wisdom of our dear brother George Washington Carver. But I can't take away from his science. We still have to analyze what he did. But if you ask me, can nuts be digestible? You know, maybe in the near future we could grow gizzards, but beyond that, no, sir.
Another week of powerful presentation, powerful information from our very own Charles Muhammad by way of How to Eat to Live. Thank you, Brother Charles. Thank you, Sister Heck of Mecca, for gracing us with your presence as well. Thank you to our listening audience for joining us today and tuning in to National Network View News. Please share your thoughts with us and comment in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel, NNV News. This is Robert Muhammad with National Network View News. Have a great evening.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.